What happens when a CEO puts on a jumpsuit and realizes the people running his airfield are risking lives? Nolan Carter stood in the corner of his office, staring at the framed photo of the first aircraft he ever flew. He didn't come from money. He bought the Airfield chain 10 years ago from a retiring pilot who ran it like a family business. Nolan turned it into 18 locations across the country, each with hangars, maintenance crews, and training programs. But lately, things were slipping. Customer reviews had gone from 5-star to 3, pilots complained about rushed inspections, and last month one of the regulars claimed his pre-flight was skipped entirely. Nolan didn't trust the filtered reports from district managers anymore. Something felt off. He needed to see it for himself. He picked the Southgate location mid-sized, busy, and just far enough out of the city to be overlooked. He'd never personally met the crew there. Most of them were hired in the last 2 years. And with the company's size, no one would expect the CEO to show up in oil-stained coveralls. He shaved his beard, dyed his hair darker, and wore a name patch that read Eddie. He applied through a staffing agency that provided temp workers to the airfields. No one looked twice when he showed up Monday morning. "Hey," said a young woman in a reflective vest, checking the clipboard. "You're Eddie, orientation's in 15. "Yeah," Nolan said, keeping his voice lower than usual. "First day," she nodded. "I'm Paige Sullivan. I'm lead tech here. You'll probably be shadowing Reggie today." Reggie was a thick-set guy in his 50s with a sunburned neck and a voice like gravel. "You don't talk much, do you?" he said as they walked past rows of grounded planes. "Just trying to learn," Nolan replied. "Good," Reggie said. "Then keep your head down, don't touch anything unless I tell you to, and you'll be fine." By noon, Nolan had already noticed things. Tools were scattered, checklists half-filled. Reggie skipped steps, muttered waste of time under his breath, and barely glanced at the logbooks. And no one seemed to question it. During a break by the hangar doors, Nolan leaned on a crate beside Paige. "Hey, I saw we didn't mark off the rudder check on that Cessna. Is that normal?" She frowned. "What do you mean?" Reggie said it was fine, didn't do anything. She looked away, jaw tight. "Look, I like my job. I'm not getting involved in anything." "Just do what he says." That night, Nolan sat in his motel room, hands clasped behind his head. He had always believed in trusting his people. But now he was watching corners being cut right in front of him. Planes were taking off every day without full inspections. And the one person who seemed to care, Paige, was scared to speak up. The next morning, things got worse. Reggie barked at junior tech. "Don't waste time on that fuel cap, it's fine, move on." "But it's," did I stutter? Nolan stepped forward. "Shouldn't we double-check that?" "I thought checking for leaks was mandatory." Reggie turned, eyes narrow. "You questioning me already, rookie?" "No, just asking." Reggie leaned in. "Let me make this clear. I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what matters and what doesn't. You want to keep this job. Then shut up and follow orders." Paige stood nearby, arms crossed, jaw clenched. She didn't say anything. After lunch, they got assigned a private jet scheduled to fly a wealthy client in 2 hours. Reggie walked around it, glanced at a few things, then signed off the inspection. Nolan watched in disbelief. "That's it," Reggie scowled. "What do you think this is, the Air Force? These guys want fast turnaround. We deliver. You got a problem, take it up with someone who cares." Nolan's blood ran cold. That jet could carry 6 people. No rudder test, no fuel check. No hydraulic fluid review. Nothing. He watched the jet taxi and lift off, his stomach twisted in knots. Back inside, Nolan found Paige near the maintenance logs. "Hey," he said, "do you ever worry about what could happen?" She looked at him, eyes tired. "Every day." "Why don't you report it?" I tried. "Last guy who did got transferred to a location 3 states away. Quiet punishment. Reggie's got the manager in his pocket." Nolan nodded slowly. He turned and walked away, fists clenched. The next day would be different. He wasn't just going to watch anymore. By the time Nolan walked into the hangar the next morning, the air already smelled of hot metal and jet fuel. The summer heat amplified everything: tempers, sweat, the sharp edge of tension in the crew's voices. No greetings, just nods or silence. Reggie stood by the toolbox, digging around for something with one hand, coffee in the other. Paige was prepping a checklist quietly near Bay 3, eyes darting up every time footsteps echoed too close. Eddie, Reggie called, not looking up. You're on washdown duty. Take that cart to the King Air out back. Don't miss the undercarriage this time. Nolan didn't respond. He just grabbed the cart and wheeled it out, the sun already baking the tarmac. The aircraft was parked with its nose toward the fence, and the heat radiated off the fuselage. As he worked, he noticed loose rivets around the nose cone, not many but enough to catch his eye. He noted the tail number and memorized it. He was halfway done when a voice behind him cut through the hum of equipment. "Hey you Eddie." A man in a button-down with a company badge clipped to his belt stood with his arms crossed, squinting. "Yeah, name's Collier. I'm the station manager. Reggie says you've been asking a lot of questions. I just want to learn the right way to do things." Collier's tone didn't shift. "You're not here to be a hero. This crew's been running tight and efficient for years. You're temporary. So keep your head down, do what you're told, and you'll get your hours." Nolan didn't blink. "Understood." Collier nodded once and walked off, leaving a trail of authority in his wake that didn't match the slackness Nolan had observed since arriving. Back inside, Nolan found Paige coiling a hose. He kept his voice low. "Who signs off the final inspections?" She hesitated, then whispered. "Reggie, unless it's a corporate charter, then Collier signs it. What about QA audits? They haven't sent anyone from Central in almost a year." Nolan inhaled through his nose, jaw tight. "Thanks." No one noticed when he slipped into the maintenance office during lunch. The door was unlocked. The logbooks sat in sloppy stacks, some pages dog-eared, others missing signatures. He flipped through the record for the jet from the day before. The checklist was marked complete, every box, every system. But he had watched Reggie glance over the plane for less than 2 minutes. He took a photo of the page with his phone and backed out without a sound. That afternoon, a technician named Lewis was working on a twin prop with a cracked cowling. Nolan approached, pretending to grab a tool off the bench. "You always get parts for structural stuff same day." Lewis shook his head. "Not unless you push for it. Reggie hates overnight freight, says it eats margins. Even for flight surfaces." Lewis looked around and lowered his voice. "Last month, we had a piper come in with a bent gear strut. Reggie told me to tap it straight and log it clean. I refused. He did it himself and put it back on the line." Nolan's hands curled around the wrench he'd picked up. "What about Collier?" Lewis gave a short, bitter laugh. "He'd back Reggie over anyone. They've worked together since the old ownership. Collier's not interested in hearing complaints, he's interested in numbers." That evening, Nolan sat in his rental car outside the chain-link fence, watching the last flights come in. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the tarmac. He pulled out his phone, opened the company's internal HR system through a secure VPN, and pulled up Paige's file. No disciplinary actions, no warnings. Just above average performance reviews and a note from a former manager calling her exceptionally thorough. He checked Lewis next. 4 years with the company, certified on 3 engine types, no flags. Then he looked up Reggie. 2 HR complaints closed without action, both anonymous. Both within the last 18 months. He read through the summaries. One involved an aircraft being signed off with an incomplete hydraulic system test. The other described hostile feedback given to junior staffers who questioned maintenance directives. Collier's name showed up in both as the final reviewer. No further investigation warranted. The next morning, Nolan arrived early, ahead of everyone. He walked the line of aircraft parked outside and stopped at the King Air he'd washed yesterday. The loose rivets were still there. No one had flagged it, no maintenance tags. He opened the small inspection panel and found the screws worn, half stripped. He took photos and closed it carefully. Inside, Paige was walking toward the lockers, bleary-eyed. "I need your help," Nolan said carefully. "Not as a tech. As someone who cares about these aircraft." She paused. "What are you talking about? I'm going to escalate this, but I need documentation. Quietly, photos, notes, anything showing shortcuts. You don't have to put your name on anything. Just help me build a case." She stared at him, eyes tense. "That's dangerous." "I know, but it's more dangerous to keep letting this happen." She looked down at the floor, then back up. "Give me a burner email. I'll send you what I have." That day, Nolan worked mostly alone. Reggie barked orders but didn't bother checking his work. Collier barely acknowledged him, But Nolan was watching everything. By mid-afternoon, a pilot arrived in the lounge, red-faced and shouting. My plane was supposed to be fueled and ready at 2. It's 3:15, and no one's even touched it. Collier came out of his office, expression bored. We've been backed up. You didn't confirm the departure time. I confirmed it with dispatch 2 days ago. I've got clients waiting in the terminal. Collier waved a hand toward the crew. Reggie, get someone on it. Reggie turned toward Paige. You. Go top off the Cirrus. I'm in the middle of a brake line flush. Then drop it and move faster. Nolan stepped forward. I've got it, Reggie sneered. You even know how to operate the pump cart? Yeah. I've done it before. He jogged out to the fuel pad, fired up the cart, and fueled the Cirrus himself. While he worked, he noticed the vent tube was loose, held in place with a zip tie. He snapped a photo and flagged the plane with a maintenance tag. When he returned the cart, Reggie was waiting. You tagged that Cirrus. Yeah, vent tube's not secure. It's been like that for weeks. Doesn't affect fuel flow, still needs to be fixed. Reggie stepped in close. Do you think you're running this place? Nolan didn't flinch. No. But I'm not sending up a plane I wouldn't fly myself. Reggie stared at him, jaw tight. You're done here. Fine by me, Nolan said, but I'm tagging everything that's unsafe before I go. That night, Nolan drove to a quiet diner 15 miles out of town and opened his laptop. His inbox had 3 new messages, all from the burner address he gave Paige. Photos of cracked hoses, skipped checklist boxes, and timestamps that didn't line up with maintenance logs. One image showed Reggie smoking just outside the fuel bay, an instant fire risk. Attached was a typed note. If this goes anywhere, I'm willing to speak if you guarantee protection. Nolan stared at the screen, then picked up his phone and dialed a number from memory. A voice answered. This is HR. This is Nolan Carter, CEO. I need an emergency audit team at Southgate by tomorrow morning. Quiet arrival. No announcements. We're cleaning house. The next morning, Nolan arrived at the Southgate Airfield before sunrise. The sky was still a dark blue when he parked behind the maintenance building and waited. 15 minutes later, 2 unmarked sedans rolled in and parked near the service gate. 4 people stepped out, 2 from corporate QA, 1 from HR, and a legal rep. All dressed like they were heading into a courtroom, not a hangar. Nolan met them in the break room, still wearing his Eddie patch. You're staying in character, the HR director asked, glancing around. For 1 more hour, Nolan said. Just long enough to see how they handle pressure when they don't know who's watching. The team agreed to observe from a distance at first. No introductions, no interruptions. Nolan stepped back out into the hangar, where the crew was slowly trickling in. Reggie showed up 5 minutes late, carrying a breakfast sandwich and talking on his phone. He didn't look at anyone. You, Reggie said, pointing at Nolan. Go move the tow bar from the ramp. We're staging a Learjet. Nolan didn't answer. He just walked past him, heart pounding. The others moved around stiffly. Paige avoided eye contact. Lewis was already at work, his jaw set tight. At precisely 7:20, Collier entered the hangar from the side door. He spotted the QA observers standing near the fuel station, their clipboards out. His expression twitched but recovered quickly. Reggie leaned toward Nolan. What's with the suits? Looks like someone brought the IRS. Nolan didn't respond. Instead, he made his way to the Learjet. He walked a slow circle around it, careful to look under the leading edge around the landing gear. He didn't touch anything, just noted a small hydraulic stain under the left strut. Reggie was already filling out the sign-off sheet. Nothing wrong with her. She flew in clean yesterday. She's leaking, Nolan said evenly. Left gear well, could be the actuator. Reggie didn't look. It's residue, it's always there. I worked on this model in Kansas. That's not normal. Reggie stepped closer. You think you know more than me? Nolan met his eyes. Yes, Reggie's voice dropped. You've been a problem since you got here. You're done. Before he could say anything else, Collier's voice cut through the space. Reggie office. Now, Reggie turned confused. What's going on? I said now. Nolan watched them disappear behind the tinted glass door. He walked to the service bay and picked up a pair of gloves. Paige joined him a moment later. You brought them, didn't you? Yes. She looked over her shoulder, then back at him. You're really the CEO, aren't you? Not for another 20 minutes. She didn't ask anything else. Instead, she handed him a wrench. They're going to fight this, she said. They always do. Inside the office, Collier was standing rigid behind his desk. Reggie was pacing. You want to explain why we've got auditors crawling all over my ramp? Reggie asked. They're not here for fun, Collier said. They've got photos, logs, testimonies. From who doesn't matter anymore. Reggie turned toward the window and saw Nolan looking in. It's him, he muttered. That kid, he set this up. He's not a kid. What? Collier stepped forward, voice flat. That's Nolan Carter, Reggie blinked. What are you talking about? He's the CEO. Reggie's face twisted. You're joking. Collier didn't answer. Nolan entered the office a moment later, pulled off the patch from his chest and dropped it on the desk. I've seen enough, he said. Effective immediately, both of you are done. Reggie, your behavior has been negligent, dangerous, and hostile. Collier, you've enabled practices that could have cost lives. Reggie opened his mouth, but Nolan cut him off. Save it. The inspection logs are fraudulent. You've ignored basic safety procedures to hit turnaround times. You've intimidated crew. You've signed off aircraft you never checked. I've got it all recorded, documented, and corroborated. Collier stepped forward. You don't understand the pressure we're under, the volume, the clients. I understand perfectly, Nolan said. You had every chance to run this properly. You chose shortcuts. That's not pressure. That's failure. Security arrived 5 minutes later. Reggie tried to protest. Collier just stood still, stunned, as HR read their terms of termination. Neither was allowed to return to the premises. As they were escorted out, the crew stood silent, tools in hand, watching from the edge of the hangar. No one said a word. Nolan turned to the remaining staff. I'm Nolan Carter, he said. I built this company because I believe in aviation done right. What I saw here over the past 3 days wasn't just disappointing. It was dangerous, and it ends today. No one moved. I've already spoken to corporate. We're bringing in a new station manager. Paige will serve as interim lead until the new manager is trained. She's earned it. Paige blinked. Wait, what? You've been doing the job without the title for months. I've seen the logs. I've seen the way you work. You kept this place from going over the edge. Lewis stepped forward slowly. What happens to the rest of us? You stay if you want to. You'll be given a full audit of your hours, back pay for any overtime that wasn't reported, and a direct line to my office if anyone tries to retaliate. This is your reset, but it's also your responsibility. A quiet murmur spread through the crew, not loud, just the shift of tension breaking. We're also shutting down operations for 72 hours, Nolan continued. No flights, no maintenance. We're doing a full safety sweep every aircraft, every record. You're all still being paid. Lewis exhaled slowly. That's unexpected. It shouldn't be, Nolan said. It should be the standard. He turned back to Paige. You'll have support from HQ. You'll choose your own team leads. And from now on, if someone flags a safety issue, it gets fixed. No questions, no pushback. She nodded, still stunned. Take today off. All of you, full pay, mandatory rest. Some of you haven't had a real break in weeks. As the crew began to scatter, Nolan stepped back toward the hangar doors. The QA team was already beginning their work, clipboards out, phones photographing every inch of the fleet. Nolan didn't watch them. Instead, he walked to the edge of the runway and stood alone, eyes on the sky, a small two-seater banked overhead, clean and steady. He watched until it disappeared into the clouds. He pulled out his phone and called his assistant. Cancel the rest of my week. I'll be staying here, he said. There's work to do. By Friday morning, the Southgate Airfield was silent except for the low murmur of QA teams walking the line with flashlights and tablets. The hangar doors were open, but no aircraft moved. No fuel carts buzzed across the tarmac. No engines turned over. The crew had been sent home the day before, and only a skeleton group remained, those Nolan had asked to return early for one reason: to help design what came next. Inside the break room, Nolan sat at a folding table with Paige, Lewis, and 2 senior techs from other locations flown in overnight. One had helped build the original training protocols. The other had worked crash investigations for the FAA before joining the company 5 years earlier. We're not patching a system, Nolan said, eyes moving across the table. We're rebuilding one. From the floor up. Paige nodded but didn't speak. She hadn't slept well, and it showed. The weight of leadership had settled on her shoulders quickly. She was still in her coveralls, hair pulled back, grease under her nails. She hadn't changed how she moved through the hangar, even after being given interim authority. But she was listening to everything, absorbing, cataloging. Nolan noticed the notebook in front of her was already half full. Lewis leaned forward. "We've got good people. But they've been conditioned to shut up and move on. If we don't give them a reason to believe that's changed, they'll keep their heads down." Nolan looked to the former FAA investigator, a wiry man named Harlan who'd spent most of his time at the Salt Lake site. "You've seen what happens when systems fail," Harlan nodded. "It's never one thing, it's a chain. Pressure, silence, ego, and fear. You break one link, you buy time. Break two, you save lives." Nolan turned to Paige. "You're going to lead this hangar. I'm not asking if you're ready. I'm asking what you need to make it work." She flipped to a clean page. "A real intake protocol. Right now, incoming aircraft are logged by whoever happens to be standing near the clipboard. We need a dedicated intake tech. Someone trained to spot red flags before a plane even hits the checklist." "Done," Nolan said. "What else?" "A digital maintenance log. We're still writing on carbon slips. It's too easy to lose accountability. If someone doesn't finish a check, it should flag red until it's resolved. No more initials without timestamps. We've got a beta system in testing," one of the senior techs said. "I'll get it installed here by Monday." Lewis raised his hands slightly. "We also need a floor rotation. No one should be working 12 days straight. Reggie ran this place like a factory line." "We're not building furniture," Nolan agreed. "We'll audit schedules from the last 12 months. Anyone who was shorted gets their back pay. Anyone who's been overworked gets staggered relief time starting next week." Paige looked up. "We'll still be short on headcount." "I've already authorized 6 new hires," Nolan said. 3 full-time, 3 apprentices. You'll review all the applications yourself. No one gets sent here unless you approve them." She hesitated. "And if they push back, they won't," Nolan said. "They answer to me." The meeting stretched another hour, each minute spent breaking down what had gone wrong and how it would be rebuilt. By the time they stepped out into the hangar, the sun was climbing above the tree line. QA teams were wrapping up, calling out final notes pointing to flagged equipment. The silence of the airfield had taken on a different weight, not absence, but preparation. Nolan walked alone through Hangar Bay 2, where the Learjet still sat grounded. He stopped near the tail and ran his hand along the smooth metal. The hydraulic leak had been traced to a worn gasket, one that should have been replaced weeks ago. "A small part, but a critical one. You planning to fly again?" Paige asked, stepping beside him. "Eventually," Nolan said. "But not out of Southgate, not until you say it's ready." She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she looked at the aircraft, then back toward the crew starting to trickle in for afternoon checks. "They don't trust easy, not after what they've seen." "Then we earn it," Nolan said. "One checklist at a time." Later that afternoon, Nolan gathered the full team on the tarmac. It wasn't a speech, no microphone, no corporate banners, just him, standing in front of the hangar with the crew in a half circle. "No one here owes me your trust," he began. "You've seen people come in and talk big before. You've seen promises. You've seen them ignored. I'm not asking you to believe in words. I'm asking you to believe in what we build from here." He pointed toward the hangar. "We're not rushing aircraft out anymore. If something isn't safe, it doesn't fly. If someone disrespects you, they don't work here. If you see something wrong, you speak up and you will be protected when you do." The crew was still quiet, but the energy had shifted. Not applause, not cheers, but no one turned away. "Paige is your lead now," Nolan said. "She earned it. She didn't ask for it and she didn't chase it. She earned it by doing the work right when no one was watching." He stepped back. Paige cleared her throat. "I'm not here to be in charge. I'm here to make sure we get back to doing things the right way. You've all seen what happens when we don't. I'm not going to pretend everything's fixed. But I will say this: if you've ever wanted to do this job without fear, this is the moment." Nolan watched from the side as the team slowly dispersed, some heading back to checklists, others grabbing tools. No one lingered. No one waited for permission. They just got to work. By evening, the airfield was humming again, not with engines, but with motion that felt different, measured. Lewis and one of the returning techs were walking a line of Cessnas, pointing out landing gear where. Paige was reviewing parts inventory with one of the QA leads. Nolan didn't need to direct anything anymore. Inside the operations office, he sat with his laptop open, typing a company-wide memo. Southgate has undergone a full systems review. Leadership changes are permanent. Safety is non-negotiable. Every site will receive updated protocols within the next 60 days, and all maintenance leads will attend mandatory retraining. If you've been waiting to speak up, now is the time. If you've been cutting corners, your time is over. He reread the message once, then hit send. He stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting behind the row of parked aircraft, casting long shadows across the tarmac. It wasn't a perfect ending. Nothing in aviation ever was. But it was solid ground, and this time it was built to hold.